What's up guys, I'm Nico of CamCrunch, and in today's episode of Film Friday, I want to talk about 3 things you can do to meter your scene with a film camera that doesn't necessarily have a light meter built into it. My first film camera that I owned myself was a Leica M3. And one thing about the Leica M3 that can be a downside is that it did not have a built-in light meter. So the first thing that I actually did to meter the scene when I first got the M3 was use my iPhone, specifically an app called Light Meter. Now what the Light Meter app does is it uses the light meter in the camera itself. So you know when you take a picture with your iPhone, it knows what settings to use to expose the scene properly. Well, it basically taps into that and then shows you sort of the settings that you can use to expose an image properly. And you can change the variables, like change the aperture or the shutter speed, so that it gives you that one variable that you want to know about to change in your camera. So what I basically did was set my film speed, so set the ISO, and then set the shutter speed that I wanted, and then it gave me sort of the aperture that I wanted. Or I could change the aperture and then it would give me the shutter speed I wanted for a specific scene. Now I found that the light meter on the iPhone was pretty accurate and it worked well, but I didn't really like the whole process of having to remove my iPhone or take out my iPhone from my pocket, meter the scene, and then use my camera itself. It was just not that fluid. Then comes in the second thing that I'm going to talk about, and that is the Sunny 16 rule. The Sunny 16 rule is basically a process that you can sort of do in your head to determine what the exposure or around what the exposure should be during a sunny day outdoors. So the Sunny 16 rule is based on the idea that on a sunny day, if you're shooting with a shutter speed that is approximately the same as your film speed, your aperture should be f16. So let's say you're shooting it with 400 film, you want to use 1/400th of a second shutter speed, which cameras don't usually have. So you go to the one above that, which is 1/500th. And if you use that combination, then you should have f16 as your perfect exposure during a sunny day. So if you have 1/500th of a second with ISO 400 film, when there's a little bit of cloudiness, then you drop it to f11. And then if there's even more cloudiness than that, like no sun, then you drop it down to f8. Then if it's really, getting dark, shady area, then you go to f5.6, so on and so forth. So you're really starting off with the baseline of f16 during a sunny day. To get a clear idea of that, I made a little graph that you can download in the description box down below, and it's going to be on the website. Now the last thing that you can do is you can actually go out and purchase a light meter. So instead of using something like the iPhone, you can actually get a dedicated light meter that you can use. Let's say you're doing portraiture or something, I would actually recommend a light meter so that you can stick it in front of your subject to see how much light is hitting them. But you can use it all sorts of different ways depending on the light meter that you have. You can adjust sort of the bulb different ways so that you can get different sorts of meter readings. And it's also helpful for flash. So that's another option, and I'm going to link a couple of very popular light meter models down below as well. Now, I don't own a light meter myself right now. I think I might invest in one soon, but seeing that all my film cameras right now do have light meters built into them, I don't necessarily need them right now. It's no rush, but we'll see what happens in the future. So that is today's episode of Film Friday. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll be sure to answer them in a timely manner. Again, I'm Nico of CamCrunch. If you guys like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. Favorite the video if you haven't yet. Follow CamCrunch on the social networks, which will be linked down below, and I'll see you guys next week for Film Friday.